She built an empire from nothing, transforming a small startup into a multi-million-dollar technology company that revolutionized the industry. At 47, Victoria Ashford commanded respect in every boardroom she entered, her sharp intellect and unwavering determination making her one of the most powerful women in Silicon Valley. She had everything money could buy: penthouses in 3 cities, a collection of vintage cars, designer wardrobes that filled entire rooms, and influence that extended across continents. Yet, despite all her achievements, despite the endless accolades and magazine covers featuring her success story, Victoria felt an emptiness she couldn't quite explain. Her days blurred together in a routine of meetings, negotiations, and strategic decisions. She ate alone in expensive restaurants, slept in luxurious beds that felt too large, and watched the sunset from floor-to-ceiling windows without anyone to share the view. Then, one ordinary Tuesday morning, everything changed. A new employee walked into her office for an orientation meeting, a 26-year-old software developer named Daniel Chen. He carried himself with quiet confidence, his genuine smile lighting up the sterile corporate environment. When their eyes met for the first time, Victoria felt something she hadn't experienced in years: genuine curiosity about another person. What she didn't know was that this encounter would unravel everything she thought she understood about herself. The carefully constructed walls she had built around her heart would begin to crumble. Her priorities would shift, and she would face the most challenging decision of her life: whether to risk her reputation, her carefully maintained image, and possibly her company for something as unpredictable and dangerous as love. This is the story of how a millionaire woman discovered that true wealth isn't measured in bank accounts or stock portfolios, but in the courage to open your heart when you least expect it, regardless of what the world might say. Welcome to Millionaire Woman, where we explore the untold stories of powerful women who navigate success, ambition, and the complexities of modern life. Today's story takes us deep into the heart of Silicon Valley, into the private world of a woman who seemed to have it all, yet was searching for something money couldn't buy. Victoria Ashford's journey to the top wasn't easy. She started her career as a junior programmer in the late 90s, working 16-hour days in a cramped apartment, surviving on coffee and determination. She watched as male colleagues received promotions she deserved, as investors dismissed her ideas in meetings, as doors closed in her face simply because of her gender. But Victoria never gave up. By her mid-30s, she had founded Tech Vision Solutions, a company specializing in artificial intelligence and machine learning applications. She poured every ounce of her energy into building something extraordinary. Relationships fell by the wayside. Friendships faded. Family gatherings became annual obligations rather than regular occurrences. Success became her singular focus, her only companion. The sacrifice paid off. Tech Vision Solutions went public when Victoria was 42, making her an instant multimillionaire. Forbes featured her on their cover. Harvard Business School analyzed her strategies. Young women cited her as their inspiration. She became a symbol of female empowerment in the tech industry, a living testament to what determination and brilliance could achieve. But symbols aren't human. Icons don't feel loneliness. And beneath the polished exterior, the designer suits and the confident speeches, Victoria was just a woman who had forgotten what it felt like to connect with another person on a level deeper than professional courtesy. She had mastered the language of business, but forgotten the vocabulary of intimacy. This story isn't just about a romance that defied age differences and workplace hierarchies. It's about rediscovering yourself when you thought you knew exactly who you were. It's about the courage to be vulnerable after years of armor. It's about challenging society's expectations and following your heart, even when logic screams that you're making a terrible mistake. It's about learning that love doesn't consult your calendar, your bank balance, or your 5-year strategic plan before it arrives. Most importantly, it's about understanding that it's never too late to let someone in. Daniel Chen arrived at Tech Vision Solutions on a crisp Monday morning in September, carrying a leather messenger bag his mother had given him for graduation, and harboring dreams of making a difference in the tech world. At 26, he had already worked for 2 startups that failed, teaching him valuable lessons about resilience and adaptability. This job felt different, more stable, more promising. The HR director led him through sleek corridors adorned with motivational quotes and awards, past open-plan offices where dozens of employees typed intently at standing desks. Everything about Tech Vision screamed success, from the state-of-the-art espresso machines to the meditation rooms. Daniel felt both excited and slightly intimidated. When he entered Victoria's corner office, he was struck first by the view. The entire San Francisco Bay spread out like a painting beneath them. Then his eyes found her, standing by the window, silhouetted against the morning light. She turned and Daniel caught his breath. She was beautiful in a way that transcended conventional standards, her presence commanding attention without demanding it. Victoria extended her hand, her grip firm and professional. She welcomed him to the team, her voice measured and controlled. But something flickered in her eyes when she looked at him, something she quickly suppressed. She had interviewed dozens of new employees. This should have been routine. Yet Daniel's genuine enthusiasm, his thoughtful questions, his obvious passion for the work made her pause. They discussed his role, his background, his ideas for improving their machine learning algorithms. Daniel spoke with confidence but without arrogance, acknowledging what he didn't know while demonstrating impressive knowledge about what he did. Victoria found herself genuinely engaged in the conversation, asking follow-up questions beyond her usual script. An hour passed without either of them noticing. Victoria's assistant knocked gently, reminding her of her next meeting. Daniel stood to leave, thanking her for her time. As he reached the door, he turned back. "I just want to say, Miss Ashford, your keynote speech at the Tech Innovation Summit last year changed my perspective on ethical AI development. It's one of the reasons I wanted to work here." Victoria felt warmth spread through her chest, a sensation so unfamiliar it took her a moment to recognize it as pleasure. Not the satisfaction of closing a business deal or the pride of seeing her company's stock rise, but simple human pleasure at being seen and appreciated for her ideas rather than just her success. After Daniel left, Victoria stood by her window for a long time, something she never did during business hours. She watched the city below, the tiny cars and ant-like people, and wondered why a simple conversation with a new employee had unsettled her so thoroughly. She told herself it was nothing, that she was simply pleased to have recruited talented personnel. But that night, alone in her penthouse with a glass of wine she barely touched, Victoria found her thoughts drifting back to Daniel's smile, to the way his eyes lit up when discussing artificial intelligence ethics, to the genuine warmth in his voice. She dismissed these thoughts as inappropriate and unprofessional. She had no idea that this was just the beginning, that Daniel Chen would become far more than just another employee, that he would challenge everything she believed about herself and force her to choose between the safe, controlled life she had built and the terrifying, exhilarating possibility of genuine connection. Over the following weeks, Victoria found herself noticing Daniel in ways she hadn't anticipated. She would see him in the cafeteria, always sitting with different team members, making everyone feel included. She observed how he stayed late to help colleagues debug their code, never seeking credit or recognition. His kindness seemed effortless, genuine in a way that was rare in the competitive tech industry. Their second substantial interaction came during a company-wide meeting where Victoria presented the quarterly results. Daniel raised his hand during the Q&A session, asking a thoughtful question about their AI ethics framework and how it applied to their new contract with a controversial client. It was the kind of question that could have been challenging, even confrontational, but Daniel asked it with genuine curiosity rather than accusation. Victoria appreciated his directness. After the meeting, she asked him to stop by her office. When he arrived, slightly nervous about whether he had overstepped, she surprised him by thanking him for the question. "You're right to push on this," she said. "I'd like your perspective on the ethics committee proposal I'm drafting. Would you be willing to review it?" This began an unexpected pattern. Victoria would email Daniel occasionally, asking for his input on various projects. Their exchanges were always professional, but increasingly personal touches crept in. She learned he was the son of immigrants, that he had worked 3 jobs to pay for college, that he volunteered teaching coding to underprivileged kids on weekends. His values aligned with hers in ways she hadn't encountered often. Daniel, for his part, was fascinated by Victoria's mind. She thought 3 steps ahead, saw patterns others missed, and possessed an almost ruthless clarity about complex problems. But he also noticed the loneliness that occasionally flickered across her face when she thought no one was watching, the way she seemed to relax only when talking about ideas rather than business metrics. One evening, they both ended up working late on a critical project deadline. Around 9 p.m., Victoria emerged from her office and found Daniel still at his desk, surrounded by energy drink cans and scribbled notes. "Have you eaten?" she asked. When he admitted he hadn't, she suggested they order something and work through the problem together in the conference room. Over Thai food from a nearby restaurant, they stopped being CEO and employee and became simply 2 people who loved solving complex problems. They laughed at bad jokes. They debated the future of technology. Daniel told her about his dream of starting a nonprofit focused on AI education. Victoria shared stories from her early career she rarely told anyone. At midnight, when they finally solved the problem they'd been wrestling with, they high-fived like kids. Victoria couldn't remember the last time she had felt such pure joy in accomplishment shared with another person. Daniel looked at her with such warmth and admiration that she had to look away, suddenly aware of how inappropriate her feelings were becoming. As Daniel packed up to leave, he paused. "Thank you, Ms. Ashford. This was the best day I've had at any job ever." Victoria watched him go, her heart beating faster than it should. She told herself she was developing a mentor-mentee relationship, nothing more. She was just being a good leader, investing in talented employees. But alone, in her office at 1 a.m, staring at the city lights, Victoria admitted to herself what she had been denying. She was developing feelings for Daniel Chen. Real feelings, dangerous feelings. And she had no idea what to do about it. Victoria tried to create distance. She stopped sending Danielle personal emails, kept their interactions strictly professional, and avoided situations where they might be alone together. But the universe seemed determined to push them together. They were assigned to the same task force. They ended up at the same industry conferences. Their paths crossed constantly, and each encounter made it harder to deny what she was feeling. Daniel noticed the change and felt confused. Had he done something wrong? He found himself missing their conversations, the way she challenged his thinking, her rare but brilliant smiles. He told himself he was being ridiculous. Victoria Ashford was his boss. She was 21 years older than him. She was practically a celebrity in their industry. He had no business developing feelings for her, but he couldn't help noticing details. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when concentrating, her laugh when something genuinely amused her, so different from her polite professional chuckle. The vulnerability that occasionally broke through her confident exterior, the passion in her voice when she talked about making technology more ethical and accessible. The turning point came during a company retreat in Napa Valley. Victoria had organized it to boost morale and encourage team bonding. On the second evening, there was a wine tasting event. Daniel found himself standing next to Victoria on a terrace overlooking the vineyards as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment before Daniel spoke. "Can I ask you something personal, Miss Ashford?" She tensed but nodded. "Do you ever regret it, sacrificing everything for your career? Do you ever wish you had chosen differently?" Victoria was quiet for so long Daniel thought she wouldn't answer. Then she said softly, "Every single day, I tell myself it was worth it, that I've made a difference, that success justifies everything I gave up. But late at night, in my empty apartment, I wonder what my life would look like if I had balanced things differently, if I had let people in." The honesty in her voice made Daniel's heart ache. He turned to face her. "It's not too late, you know. You're not some finished product. You're still living, still growing. You can make different choices now." Their eyes met, and something passed between them, an understanding that went beyond words. Victoria felt tears threatening, something that never happened to her. Daniel's perception, his kindness, the way he saw past her armor to the lonely woman beneath, it was more than she could bear. "Daniel, she started, but couldn't finish. What could she say? That she had feelings for him, that she thought about him constantly, that he made her want to risk everything? Before she could finish her thought, a group of employees called them over to join a game. The moment broke, but something had shifted between them. They both knew it. The professional boundaries they had tried to maintain were crumbling, and neither of them knew how to rebuild them, or even if they wanted to. That night, Victoria lay awake in her hotel room, staring at the ceiling. Across the hall, Daniel did the same. Both were thinking about the other. Both were terrified of what they were feeling, and both were beginning to realize that some forces, once set in motion, cannot be stopped, no matter how inconvenient or impossible they seem. 2 weeks after the retreat, Victoria made a decision. She couldn't continue this way, torn between her feelings and her sense of professional responsibility. She scheduled a meeting with Daniel under the pretense of discussing his performance review. When he arrived at her office on a Friday evening, most of the other employees had already left for the weekend. Daniel sat across from her desk, noting the tension in her posture. Victoria had rehearsed what she wanted to say, but now that he was here, all her carefully planned words evaporated. "Your performance has been exceptional," she began, falling back on professional language. "You've exceeded every expectation." Daniel sensed there was more. "Thank you, Miss Ashford, but I don't think you asked me here just to tell me that." His directness, as always, cut through pretense. Victoria stood, moving to the window, putting distance between them. She needed space to say what she had to say. "You're right," she admitted. "Daniel, I need to tell you something, and then I need you to consider requesting a transfer to a different department or possibly even a different company. I'll write you a glowing recommendation. Ensure you have opportunities anywhere you want to go." She took a deep breath. "I'm doing this because I've developed feelings for you, inappropriate feelings, and I cannot compromise your career or mine by allowing this situation to continue." The silence that followed felt eternal. Victoria kept her eyes on the city below, unable to face him. Her heart pounded so hard she thought he must be able to hear it. She had just confessed something she had barely admitted to herself, had made herself completely vulnerable in a way she hadn't done in decades. She heard Daniel stand, heard his footsteps crossing the carpet. He stopped behind her, close enough that she could feel his presence. "Miss Ashford," he said softly. "Victoria, look at me." She turned slowly, expecting to see horror or pity or professional distance. Instead, she saw understanding and something that looked remarkably like relief. "I've been losing my mind thinking I was alone in this," Daniel said. "For weeks, I've been trying to convince myself that what I'm feeling is just admiration, just respect for a brilliant mind. But it's more than that. I think about you constantly. I find excuses to walk past your office. I save articles I think you'd find interesting. I've never felt this way about anyone." Victoria's breath caught. "Daniel, you're 26 years old. You have your entire life ahead of you. I'm old enough to be your—" She couldn't finish the sentence. Daniel stepped closer, his eyes never leaving hers. "You're old enough to know what you want and brave enough to say it. Age is just a number, Victoria. What matters is how we feel, how we connect." "People will talk," Victoria said weakly. "They'll say I'm having a midlife crisis, that I'm taking advantage of you, that it's unprofessional. My board of directors will lose confidence. Investors might pull out. I've spent my entire life building credibility, and this could destroy it all." Daniel reached out, gently taking her hand. The touch sent electricity through them both. "Or," he said quietly, "people will see two adults making a choice to explore what could be an extraordinary connection." "Victoria, I'm not asking you to decide everything right now, but don't ask me to transfer. Don't push me away because you're afraid. Give us a chance to figure out what this is. Please." Victoria didn't sleep that night. She paced her penthouse, weighing impossible choices. Everything in her life had been carefully calculated, every risk analyzed and mitigated. But there was no spreadsheet for this, no data analysis that could predict whether following her heart would lead to happiness or disaster. She thought about her parents, who had been married for 40 years before her father passed. They had faced their own challenges, their own judgments, and they had chosen love every time. By Monday morning, she had made her decision, but she needed to do this right to minimize the damage to Daniel's career and protect them both from accusations of impropriety. She called her attorney and her head of HR. She disclosed her feelings, asking for guidance on how to handle the situation ethically. Their advice was clear. She needed to recuse herself from any decisions affecting Daniel's career, and they needed to be transparent with the executive team. Victoria scheduled a meeting with her board of directors, standing before the 12 people who had invested in her vision, who had supported her rise to the top. She did something she had never done before. She asked for permission to live her personal life. She explained the situation honestly, acknowledging Daniel's talent and her feelings, and outlined the safeguards she proposed to prevent any conflict of interest. The reactions were mixed. Some board members were supportive, others concerned about optics and potential lawsuits. One older male director made a snide comment about robbing the cradle that made Victoria's blood boil. But she kept her composure, addressing each concern methodically, pointing out that if she were a man dating a younger woman, this meeting probably wouldn't be happening. After 3 hours of discussion, the board agreed to her proposal with conditions. Daniel would report to a different supervisor. Victoria would recuse herself from any decisions affecting his compensation or advancement, and they would both sign documents acknowledging that their relationship was consensual and wouldn't affect business operations. Next came the harder conversation. Victoria met with Daniel in a neutral location, a quiet cafe far from the office. She laid out everything: the board meeting, the conditions, the potential challenges they would face. "I'm giving you one more chance to walk away," she said. "Once we move forward, there's no going back. Your career will always be linked to me in people's minds. Some will assume you slept your way to success, regardless of your actual talent." Daniel listened carefully, his expression serious. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. "Victoria, I appreciate you trying to protect me. But I'm not a child. I'm a grown man making a conscious choice. Yes, this will be complicated. Yes, people will talk. But I'd rather face challenges with you than have an easy life without you." Victoria felt something release in her chest, a tension she had been carrying for months, maybe years. "Are you sure?" she asked, needing to hear it one more time. Daniel reached across the table, taking both her hands in his. "I've never been more sure of anything." They decided to take things slowly, to date like normal people despite the abnormality of their circumstances. No grand announcements, no dramatic gestures. They would let their colleagues discover the relationship naturally, would face the gossip and judgment together. As they left the cafe, walking side by side through the San Francisco streets, Victoria felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Hope. Not hope for a successful quarter or a profitable merger, but hope for a future that included connection, intimacy, and love. It was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure, and she was ready to embrace it. The first few months were harder than either of them anticipated. Word spread quickly through TechVision Solutions. Some colleagues were supportive, but others whispered in break rooms and exchanged knowing looks. Someone created a cruel meme comparing Victoria to a predator, which circulated on internal messaging boards before HR shut it down. Daniel faced questions about whether he had really earned his position or just slept his way there. Victoria's carefully controlled public image took hits. A gossip blog ran a story titled "Silicon Valley CEO's Boy Toy Scandal." Industry podcasts debated whether their relationship represented an abuse of power. At a tech conference, a competitor made a joke during his keynote about older women and young men that was clearly directed at her. Victoria kept her composure publicly, but cried in her hotel room that night. Daniel's family had concerns too. His traditional Chinese parents worried about the age difference and what people would think. His mother asked if Victoria could even have children. if Daniel was throwing away his chance at a normal family. His father questioned whether the relationship could really be equal when one person held so much more power and wealth. The pressure affected their relationship. Victoria withdrew, reverting to her old patterns of emotional distance. She worked longer hours, canceled dates, and tried to convince herself and Daniel that they should end things before more damage was done. She told herself she was protecting him, but really, she was protecting herself from further vulnerability. Daniel refused to let her run. One night, after she canceled their dinner plans for the third time in a week, he showed up at her office at 11 p.m. "We need to talk," he said firmly. Victoria tried to deflect, but Daniel was having none of it. "You're pushing me away because you're scared. I get it. This is hard, but running away won't make it easier." They argued, really argued, for the first time. Victoria accused Daniel of not understanding the scrutiny she faced, the decades of work she was risking. Daniel accused Victoria of using fear as an excuse to avoid intimacy. Both said things they regretted. But then, in the middle of the anger and frustration, something shifted. Victoria broke down, really broke down, in a way she hadn't allowed herself to in years. "I don't know how to do this," she sobbed. "I don't know how to be vulnerable. I don't know how to love someone and still be strong. I've spent my entire adult life proving I don't need anyone, and now I need you so much it terrifies me." Daniel held her, letting her cry, letting her be human. "You don't have to have all the answers," he said gently. "You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present. Let me in, Victoria. Let me see all of you, not just the successful CEO, but the woman who's scared and uncertain and trying to figure this out like everyone else." That night marked a turning point. Victoria stopped trying to control everything and started allowing herself to simply feel. They established new boundaries with work, protecting their personal time fiercely. They learned to communicate about their fears rather than letting them fester. They built something real, something that could weather the storms. The external challenges didn't disappear. People still talked, still judged, still made assumptions. But Victoria and Daniel stopped caring as much. They found strength in each other, created a private world where age was irrelevant and only their connection mattered. They learned that love doesn't conquer all the obstacles, but it gives you a reason to face them. A year into their relationship, Victoria hardly recognized her own life. She still ran Tech Vision Solutions with the same strategic brilliance, but now she also left work at reasonable hours. She attended Daniel's weekend coding classes for kids, watching with pride as he patiently explained algorithms to 12-year-olds. She laughed more, stressed less, and discovered hobbies she had abandoned decades ago. Daniel transformed too. Being with Victoria taught him about ambition and vision in ways business school never could. She mentored him not just in career strategy, but in understanding the bigger picture, thinking beyond the immediate to the impact they could have on the world. He gained confidence, learning to navigate corporate politics while maintaining his integrity. They traveled together, not to conferences, but to places that fed their souls. They hiked in Patagonia, where Victoria discovered she loved physical challenges as much as intellectual ones. They volunteered together at tech education nonprofits. They created traditions, Sunday morning farmers market visits, Thursday night cooking experiments, monthly weekend getaways where phones were banned. Victoria introduced Daniel to her world, but on different terms. At galas and industry events, He stood beside her not as an accessory, but as an equal partner. She stopped apologizing for their relationship, stopped explaining or justifying. When someone made a snide comment, she addressed it directly and moved on. Her confidence in their relationship made others reconsider their judgments. The company culture shifted too. Seeing their CEO in a relationship that defied conventions emboldened other employees to be more authentic. Several other couples came forward about workplace relationships they had been hiding. The company revised its policies to be more inclusive and less punitive, recognizing that humans are complex and relationships happen. Victoria's board of directors eventually came around, especially after seeing that her performance hadn't declined but actually improved. She was happier, more creative, better at leading with empathy. The company's culture scores rose, retention improved, profits increased. It turned out that a CEO with a healthy personal life made better business decisions than one running on burnout and loneliness. Daniel flourished in his career too, earning promotions based purely on merit. He led a groundbreaking project on ethical AI that attracted international attention. When people suggested he succeeded because of his relationship with Victoria, his colleagues defended him fiercely, pointing to his concrete achievements and undeniable talent. 2 years in, during a vacation to Italy, Daniel proposed. It wasn't dramatic or public. They were in a small restaurant in Rome, sharing pasta and wine, talking about everything and nothing. He simply took her hand and said, "I want to spend my life with you. Will you marry me?" Victoria cried, laughed, and said yes without hesitation. They married in a small ceremony with close friends and family. Victoria wore a simple, elegant dress, not white but champagne. Daniel's parents, who had grown to love Victoria deeply, cried throughout the ceremony. Victoria's mother, 82 and sharp as ever, whispered to her daughter, "It's about time you let yourself be happy." Standing there, exchanging vows with Daniel, Victoria reflected on her journey. She had spent decades building an empire, and it had brought her wealth and success, but not fulfillment. Then a young man walked into her office and taught her that true richness came from connection, vulnerability, and the courage to love without guarantee. She had taken the biggest risk of her life, and it had paid off in ways no business deal ever could. Victoria and Daniel's story challenges everything society tells us about relationships, about age, about power dynamics, and about love. They faced judgment, overcame obstacles, and built something extraordinary, not because it was easy, but because they believed it was worth fighting for. Their relationship worked not despite their differences, but because they approached those differences with honesty, communication, and mutual respect. Victoria learned to be vulnerable. Daniel learned to be patient. Both learned that love doesn't follow a script or obey societal timelines. Today, 5 years after that first meeting, Victoria is still CEO of Tech Vision Solutions, now with Daniel as her partner in life and a senior leader in the company. They've started a foundation focused on making technology education accessible to underserved communities. They've mentored dozens of young professionals. They've shown that you can be professionally successful and personally fulfilled, that you don't have to choose between ambition and love. Their home is filled with laughter, their life filled with purpose. Victoria still works hard, but now she works for something bigger than her own success. She works to build a legacy that includes not just a company, but a partnership, a love story, and a life well lived. The lesson from their story isn't that age gap relationships are for everyone or that workplace romances are always appropriate. The lesson is that love comes in unexpected forms, that it's never too late to open your heart, and that society's rules about who should love whom are often arbitrary and limiting. Victoria took a risk on love when logic said she shouldn't. She chose vulnerability over control. She chose happiness over reputation. And in doing so, she discovered that the greatest success isn't measured in millions earned or companies built, but in the depth of connection you create and the courage to be fully, authentically yourself with another person. That's true wealth. That's the millionaire woman's ultimate achievement.